Have you ever sat across from someone in their 80s and felt like time slowed down for a moment? They don't rush. They don't fill silence with noise. They look at you, really look, and when they speak, every word carries the weight of decades, not because they're trying to be wise, but because they've lived through more than most of us can imagine. There's a calm they carry, a knowing, a quiet power that doesn't need to prove anything. These are the people who've walked through heartbreak, healing, change, and joy, and somehow, they're still here, still smiling, still teaching. In this video, we're not just sharing advice, we're passing on life lessons that only come with age, a wisdom from those who've made it past 80, not just by surviving, but by truly living. Their stories might just change the way you see life. Reaching 80 is no small thing. It means you've lived through wars, heartbreaks, inventions, disappointments, and love stories the world may never know. It means you've watched the world shift beneath your feet, seen values change, watched loved ones grow up, move on, and sometimes fade away. And yet, here you are, still waking up each day with stories inside you that many people never stop long enough to hear. In a world that moves too fast to notice the quietest voices, we often forget that some of the richest wisdom doesn't come from books or degrees. It comes from lived experience, from mistakes, from resilience, from simply staying present year after year. That's why this video matters, because the voices of those over 80 are not just valuable, they're irreplaceable. They carry a kind of clarity only time can give, and when they speak, it's not to impress, but to pass on something real. If you're lucky enough to know someone over 80, listen closely. And if you are over 80, thank you for being here. This is a tribute to you. Harold used to say yes to everything: family dinners, neighborhood events, favors from friends. If someone asked, he showed up. But after turning 80, something shifted. He realized that every yes came with a cost to his energy, his rest, sometimes even his joy. For the first time, Harold began saying number, not because he didn't care, but because he finally understood that his time was limited and precious. At first, he felt guilty. He worried people might think he was cold or selfish. But then he noticed something surprising: the world didn't fall apart. His loved ones still cared, and more importantly, he felt calmer, more in control. Saying no isn't about shutting people out, it's about making space for what truly matters. After 80, you begin to see that not every invitation deserves your time. Not every request needs a yes. You've spent a lifetime giving. Now it's okay to choose rest over obligation. It's okay to say no with kindness and love, because you've earned the right to protect your peace. There was a time when being busy felt like a badge of honor. Appointments, errands, chores, they filled the day and made you feel useful. But as the years pass, many older adults realize that constant busyness doesn't always mean a meaningful life. After turning 80, Harold began to notice how much of his time had been spent doing instead of simply being. He remembered rushing through lunches just to get to the next task. But now, he pauses. He sits longer at the table. He listens more. He watches the light move across the room. Presence is a choice, and a powerful one. You don't need to fill every hour to feel alive. Sometimes the richest moments come in stillness: a slow cup of tea, a quiet memory, a glance at the sky. Being present doesn't mean doing less, it means noticing more. Choosing presence means choosing what truly matters: connection, peace, and awareness. You've earned the right to slow down, and not because you're weak, but because you finally understand what's worth your time. When Margaret turned 82, she noticed something new: the silence in her house no longer felt lonely. It felt peaceful. She had spent decades surrounded by noisy children laughing, phones ringing, TV humming in the background. But now, in the quiet of her living room, with a warm blanket and the soft tick of a clock, she found a kind of comfort she didn't know she needed. Solitude, in earlier years, might have felt empty. But with age comes a shift. You start to understand that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Solitude becomes sacred, a time to reconnect with yourself, to breathe, to simply be. There's no need to fill the silence, no need to apologize for enjoying your own company. In those quiet moments, You might remember things you'd forgotten. You might feel gratitude for how far you've come. Sometimes doing nothing at all is the most healing thing you can do. Solitude isn't something to fear, it's something to honor, because when you're at peace with your own presence, you're never truly alone. There comes a time when small talk no longer feels small, it feels exhausting. At 40, you might have smiled through empty conversations at family parties, but after 80, your tolerance for surface-level chatter begins to fade. It's not that you're grumpy, it's that your soul now craves depth. Margaret, now in her 80s, stopped attending loud gatherings where no one really listened. She didn't enjoy the gossip, the noise, the pressure to keep up. Instead, she chose quieter moments that felt genuine: a coffee with a friend, a walk with a neighbor, a heartfelt phone call. Letting go of shallow interactions isn't isolation, it's discernment. Real connection doesn't need volume, it needs presence. And if a conversation leaves you emptier than before, it might not be worth having anymore. You have every right to choose peace over pretense, depth over noise. Time is too precious for anything less than real. Even the closest relationships can drift, and not because of anger, but because life moves in different directions. Robert, now 85, used to call his childhood friend every week, but over time, the conversations grew shorter. The laughter faded. At first, he felt guilty. He wondered if he should try harder, but the truth was, the distance wasn't anyone's fault, it was just part of growing older. Not every connection lasts forever, and that's okay. Some people are meant to walk with you for a season, not a lifetime. That doesn't make the bond less real. Releasing that guilt opens space for acceptance and peace. Growing apart isn't always a loss, it's simply part of living fully. At 85, Robert realized something else. He started noticing how certain people made him feel after they left the room, some lighter, some drained. And for the first time, he gave himself permission to protect his emotional space. Emotional safety isn't just for the young. The older you get, the more important it becomes. You've carried decades of memories and responsibilities. Your heart deserves peace now, and not more tension. That's why many seniors begin stepping back from relationships that feel one-sided or heavy. It's not rejection, it's self-respect. Choosing who you let into your emotional space is wisdom. Protecting your heart isn't selfish, it's sacred. Ethel spent most of her life saying yes to keep the peace, but after turning 84, she realized keeping everyone happy had left her quietly depleted. So she stopped, not with anger, but with calm honesty. She began saying things like, "Thank you, but I think I'll stay home," and the world didn't fall apart. People-pleasing feels noble, but over time it erodes your well-being. At this stage of life, peace matters more than approval. Choosing peace doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care enough to be honest, to set boundaries, and to honor what you need. You've spent a lifetime showing up for others. Now you get to show up for yourself. By the time you reach your 80s, you've earned something precious, the right to live on your own terms. Ethel used to think being a good person meant following every rule and never disappointing anyone. But then she began asking, whose rules are these anyway? Now she eats breakfast at 11, wears what's comfortable, and naps when she wants. Living on your own terms isn't rebellion, it's freedom. It's knowing time is too short to be anyone but yourself. You're not here to perform. You're here to live quietly, joyfully, truthfully. That's its own kind of legacy. We often hear about physical rest, but emotional rest is just as vital. At 86, George realized that even when his body rested, his mind didn't. He worried, replayed regrets, wondered if he'd done enough. So he began practicing a different kind of rest, and not lying down, but letting go. Emotional rest means releasing what you can't control. It means saying, "I've done enough for today." That kind of rest can heal more than sleep ever could. Some wounds don't show on the skin, they linger quietly, old betrayals, words never said. But healing is always possible. Helen carried hurt from a sibling for 40 years until one day, she wrote a letter she never sent. She didn't write to blame, but to release, and afterward, she felt lighter. Healing doesn't always need an apology. Sometimes it's simply choosing to stop carrying the pain. Your heart deserves softness now. Healing isn't about making the past perfect, it's about becoming free. At 83, Henry couldn't open jars like he used to. It frustrated him until he learned to adapt. Aging comes with changes, but adaptation isn't giving up its grace. It's saying, this is who I am today, and I still matter. Resilience isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in small acts, getting dressed, making your bed, watering a plant. Those tiny victories are proof of courage. Even as the body changes, your dignity doesn't fade, it deepens. It's in your values, your voice, your humor, your kindness. Aging doesn't erase you, it reveals you. And in a world that often overlooks the elderly, remember this: you still deserve to be seen. You haven't disappeared. You still have stories to tell, laughter to share, and light to shine. Not everything in life will be finished neatly. Some dreams remain unfinished, and that's okay. Life isn't a checklist, it's a collection of moments. You were enough, even in the middle of becoming. As Louise once said at 88, I used to think happiness meant no pain. Now I know it's holding both joy and sorrow in the same breath. That's wisdom, understanding that life is both. You can grieve and still laugh, miss the past and still love the present. Let both emotions sit side by side. With age, you learn that being present is the greatest gift. You don't have to fix or advise, you just be there. Presence says, I see you, I'm here. And in the end, that's what people remember, not what we did, but how we made them feel. Letting go isn't weakness, it's strength. It's freeing yourself from the weight of what no longer serves you. After a certain age, much changes. Friends pass, abilities fade, but even in loss, something always remains: your light, your essence, your quiet wisdom. Trust what's left. It's enough. You are still here, and that matters more than you know. Growing older isn't about fading. It's about becoming more of who you really are. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are still needed. The world needs your calm, your steadiness, your presence. You are the wisdom. You are the legacy. And even now, your light still matters.